Hello, everybody. So yesterday, the weather was so delightful. Let it snow, let it snow, let it snow. Well, last night after I got home, it was ice, ice, baby. It was a pain in the ass, baby. It was not fun. Fortunately, I was at home, but I think it was like 7 o'clock. We looked outside and had to let the dog out to pee. And the sidewalk and the roads and the snow, and I should say, laying on top of the snow was ice. So, fortunately, when I got up this morning and I looked, weather had warmed up and the snow and the ice had melted. So, where last night, in fact, I asked Danny when I got in here how last night was, and he said that it was so bad that they closed early at midnight. And how he just lives right around the corner from here, and how no one was getting plowed, and it was just horrible. So whereas today it's fine. But that was the weather report for central Pennsylvania, the Mechanicsburg, Camp Hill, Harrisburg area. So, then this morning when I was running around doing my errands, I was listening to John's Lawn Box. John, thank you very much for giving a shout out to me, and I'm definitely going to be getting a hold of you to be on your channel. I look forward to that. I will definitely be emailing you. So, if you guys haven't, I definitely advise you guys to check out John's Long Box. On Sundays, he just does a flip through of a single issue, and he talks about it. This week he did Fantastic Four #1. Last week he did an issue of Justice League of America, and he picked Justice League of America from like the Silver Age books. And I'll be the first to say that I am a DC guy. I hated those stories; they were so dumb. The artwork was not that good. But when you look at it for that era, they weren't that bad. I mean, you gotta keep in mind. He had the first issue of the Justice League fighting Despero. And, I mean, yeah, it's bad, but it was designed for kids. So kids could be like, this is stupid and question it, or kids could just buy into the story and understand, like, yeah, this is stupid, but it's just what it is. It's a kid's book. It doesn't hold up weight to today's stuff. Whereas, like, Fantastic Four, it was made for kids, but it was made for like, hey, kids aren't stupid. And so, I apologize. It's that time of year where everybody gets those coughs and sneezes that just last for days and weeks. So, but yeah, like I was saying, I mean, I can't understand when people criticize those old DC stuff. It wasn't until like issue 200 with George Perez and when he was doing the covers that I found out, and I really enjoyed. I started getting the Justice League of America, and I was getting those because it had characters other than Superman, Batman, the Flash. Those weren't my characters. The Justice League for me has always been like Hawkman, Green Lantern, Red Tornado. Those guys. That's who. When I think of a good Justice League of America lineup, that's who I think of. So, but no, it was great. I will definitely be getting a hold of it. Hopefully you guys will see me on John's Lawn Box soon. So, I want to clarify something from last night when I was on the chat. It's very easy for you to, if you watch it, to perceive or be under the assumption that I did not like Carbon Heart's remarks. Here's the thing, okay? I like Ethan's artwork. I'm not a huge fan of Ethan. When I got into Comicsgate, discovered who Comicsgate was, it was from the Bros. And I still am a Bros fan. I do not miss any episode of the Bros. Even though lots of times on Tuesdays when they're doing their show, I'm out doing my grocery shopping. But, I mean, I'll be walking through the store listening to the bros. Same thing with Graham and Billy Tucci's shows. I try to catch Art's show, the Pontificators, but I'm a Bros fan. I'm a Bros fan, not a per se hardcore Comicsgate fan. And that's the thing that I love about Comicsgate is that everybody thinks Comicsgate is Ethan Van Sciver and John Malin and Cecil and Shane. It's not. Those guys may be the biggest overall earners, but when it comes to the comic book fans and the comic book community, I'm Bros. I'm Bros and Bros adjacent, and so I find myself catering to those guys. So, which brings me to remember Aaron's birthday stream of him being 60 years old is tonight. I hope that a lot of the bros, and he has a lot of guests, are on his show tonight. Remember, his campaign, Kit Carter, is still in demand. I'm looking forward to that book. I'm greatly looking forward to that book. Back to the Very High Tier, which you know, and I went in detail last week and on other streams about how much the money I spent on his campaign for Kit Carter. Gary Martin also, his book, A Brush with Destiny. That book is also going to be closing tomorrow night. That's one of those books where remember, Gary is a mainstay staple to normies. And I think that that's one of those books where once he closes out this campaign that's on Fund My Comic, I think he should. You know, we're not going to ink there. I'm trying to pick areas where I can ink where I don't move the paper around too much, and I notice that trying to ink up here, I'm having to hold the paper up high, and as a result, even holding it up high, my inking's like down in here below. So we'll do up here. So I try to, when I'm doing these videos for you guys, I try to stay consciously aware of working on the image in an area where I don't have to move the paper around much, so that way you guys can see the inking going on as I do it, so you can see the stippling. So, and this is a commission for a husky that I'm working on. So, but no, I just, it got me how he was like, he's thinking like Ethan is the best of the best, and when it comes to crowdfunding, yes, there is no denying Ethan's strengths, but when it comes to actual content and books, and also bluntly being a producer of books, Ethan's not there. I understand Ethan taking much longer because he's hyper detailed. Remember, George Perez, if you actually read any of the interviews with George Perez admits how he was horrible at meeting deadlines because he was so detailed. Okay, he's admitted it. And Ethan needs to pull back. He needs to, instead of launching new campaigns, he just needs to focus on the campaigns that are open, get them closed out. Then when they're closed out, he can then focus on the new campaign. And I think that's where the most amount of criticism towards Ethan has been. It has nothing to do with his talent, okay? I will always defend Ethan's hyper-detailed style, okay? And I always will reference George Perez because of him being like the first of the hyper-detailed artists. So, but yeah, so I would definitely, so I just wanted to make sure that was clarified. I was kind of annoyed, and that's the reason why I was showing the other books that Comicsgate has delivered over this last year that I think are much better than Wreck Planet. So, okay, so that's my opinion, and I stick by my opinion as a backer, as a comic book reader, as a long-time comic book reader. So, and it shows. You take a look at his Rainbow the Brute. Everybody's been bashing him, and I'm sorry, he deserves all the criticism he's been getting. because of having launched Rainbow the Brute 2 years ago and it's still unfulfilled. What he's producing right now is really good for Rainbow the Brute. I'm more looking forward to it. I'm not backing it yet, and I probably won't back it until he gets closer to fulfilling. So now if that means he closes out and he does a second chance campaign, so be it. Okay, but I really like what I'm seeing. I wish we would have seen more of this right after he finished working on the Wrecked Planet campaign. So, but okay, so we've got that out of the way. With what I was saying, this leads into it. Okay, comic books have always been a visual medium. Shane Davis said it this week. And he made remarks about like how, I guess, with these writers, and how if write a fucking novel, if you don't have respect for the comic book medium, then write a fucking novel. Or if you feel that if you want, or do more of a YA format where you've got text covering all the page, and then you have one spot illustration. Comic books have always been a visual medium. And they will always be a visual medium. And I will never apologize for the fact that the reason why I fully believe that comic books are in such a bad shape they are in right now is because they don't have good artists. And I bought I bought an iPad this last year. And in using it and experimenting with it, I've discovered that I can now see and tell when these artists are using an iPad. The ink work is much more, it's blotchy. I mean, it's one of those like, and here's the thing. Just because it's hard, because let's say you're doing a car or a tank, and it's easy just to put the lines in, they're blotchy, and you make the tank, which is a imposing image. Okay, when you see tanks in real life, and you see tanks, they're large, dominating, imposing, and intimidating. But when you draw it with freehand or in an iPad, it looks soft. It looks malleable, like a sponge. Okay, yeah, it's harder to like click, hold. Okay, yeah, straight line. Click. It's now a straight line. You need straight lines, and with all this artwork that I see where I can tell that they're using an iPad, I'm sorry, I'm looking at it going, did you never ever learn how to draw with a ruler? When you look at some of these artists like Graham with Statistical Zero, you can tell that they've spent a long period of time learning how to draw with paper and pencil. And that's the reason why I'm with Graham saying with this Escape from Monster Island he's going to be doing this year, he's going to be doing it traditionally, and I'm glad he's doing it traditionally. That way, and I think the reason why he's even admitting it is that by doing that, it's going to match the feel of the artwork from the previous books, Monster Island and Return to Monster Island. So I'm looking forward to that. So, and I can tell when artists are not using it, and it's when you make references to this current artwork being Tumblr art. Yeah, I see it now. I understand why the artwork is so inferior. It's because these artists are using the iPad as a crutch, and I look at them, I'm like, this is not comics. This is not worthy of the medium. And you got to keep in mind, we built that medium up with artists going from the Jack Kirby, Gardner Fox days of cranking it out really fast to an era of where Bernie Wrightson and George Perez and Kahlua got in and added that element of illustration to the medium. And what we're seeing right now being produced in mass production is inferior to what the industry established. Another perfect example is you take a look at Image Comics in the 90s. Okay, Image Comics in the 90s, whether you like them or hate them, you have to look at it, and it's one of those, what's like the visual artwork sold the book. Image got a lot of flack in the very beginning because they didn't have good writers. They heard it, they listened, and they got writers to make their books better. I mean, heck, Alan Moore was working for Alan Moore was working for Todd McFarlane, and he was working for Rob Liefeld. You had Chris Claremont going over to Wildcats, working with Jim Lee. I mean, they realized that they needed good artists, good stories to match their superior artwork. And right now, what I'm seeing is we have inferior writing along with inferior artwork. So, and I know we're hitting the 16-minute mark, and I want to keep these at 15 minutes. But I really want to get into this last subject along this lines, or the last example is Joe Bennett. Joe Bennett, who's doing the Alpha Core for Eric July. Okay, a lot of people are criticizing the artwork. Okay, and sorry, you got to look. The problem with this argument, okay, is you really got to look at it. Okay, I've followed him on Facebook for a long period of time. His pencils are superior. They are top of the game. The problem is that Joe Bennett, even going back when he worked for Marvel and DC, he's never had a superior inker. Okay, I feel that Eric July is doing a disservice to his fans and to himself by not investing in a superior inker. There's a lot of inkers out there that aren't even doing work right now in the mainstream that would probably be able to raise the bar and raise the level of Joe Bennett's artwork to what it deserves. Norm Ratman, I don't know if Norm's doing anything for anybody right now. Same thing with Danny Meeke. Those two, actually, you know what? Meeke's working, is currently if you want to see his stuff in print right now, he's inking on top of Ivan Riaz on that Beast World for Titans, which I got it, and I'm like, sorry. And plus also, with Ivan going over the Ghost Machine, it's one of those where it's like, I don't need to buy this subpar book for Ivan's artwork. I'll be getting much better writing and much better example of his pencils and inks in Ghost Machine. But no, I think Eric July needs to start looking at investing in a higher quality inker. From what I understood, there was like 5 people inking Joe Bennett, and they had like one person inking the buildings, one person inking the backgrounds, one person inking the figures, like how manga does it. You don't need to do that. Just get one good inker. The examples I'll give I'll just throw out there is take a couple of his pages, just reach out to a couple inkers and be like, hey, I'll pay you a certain amount, not that much, but can you ink these pages so I can see what you look like over Joe Bennett's artwork? I mean, you got nothing to lose by like reaching out to like veteran inkers like Mark McKenna, who probably wouldn't cost you all that much. He still does quality work. Let's see, there's Mark McKenna, Andrew Peepoy. Here's another person, Richard Friend. Richard Friend came from the image era, so he's used to having to provide that extra zing that I know Eric July wants, as opposed to what's being produced by Marvel and DC. I think it would have been Eric's benefit to invest in getting a superior inker so we can have that superior Joe Bennett pencils that he's getting pencils from Joe Bennett that are superior. And like I said, this is nothing against Eric July. And the reason why it's nothing against Eric July is because if you look at Joe Bennett's work of his entire career, he's always had an issue where he's always had inferior inkers going over his stuff. When he was doing the Arrow for DC, or when he was doing the Immortal Hulk, I think it was, for Marvel. The inkers were inferior to the pencils he was producing. Okay, and I can say that because I remember flipping through the books after seeing Joe's posting images on Facebook of the pages he was working on, and being like, wow, that is really, really cool. Going to the comic book store, picking it up off the shelf, going, oh, dear God, what happened? What happened between these superior pencils that I saw online to what I'm holding in my hand? Joe Bennett does not need a superior colorist. His pencils are so strong you can get away with just getting a colorist who just does flats. So, but that's what, like I said, that's where Joe Bennett's artwork, and I think a lot of criticism would end if Joe Bennett was given a superior inker. So, but that's just, like I said, what I'm saying is reinforced with my previous statement about how comic books are a visual medium. Joe Bennett is a superior artist. He's a superior pencil. He just needs a superior inker for his artwork to completely jump off the page at you, grab you by the balls, and go, holy fucking shit, this is awesome. I think that's the one thing that's always held Joe Bennett back from being a superstar within Marvel and DC. Had nothing to do with his talent, had to do with the talent he was surrounded with. So, okay, that's it. Last thing I want to go over real quick with you guys. I'm over time. I want to just end this, but I want to show you guys something, okay? So you've seen me using this nib, okay? Now, here's another nib. You see how the stem of it's been broken off? I did that intentionally. It's so I know that this nib, if I'm laying down the ink this way, it doesn't lay down well. But if I flip it over, see how these lines here are so fine? That's done with this nib, okay? So I use, either they're both 102s, but when I use this 102, I get a much thinner line. So so that's the reason why I snap the end off, is so that way I know when I'm inking that's what I'm going to be, that I know that this is the nib to use for that really fine work. So you see how I'm doing that? See, here, let me go over this side here. Let me go over this side. So you see how I am just going to, okay? And what I do is when I'm doing that is I'll go up here and I want to tone this down, okay? So I'll go in here and I'll do a line of really fine dots, and it helps kill that down. Then I want to have more of a gray of a blending. Just put a little bit in here, right here at the edge, pulling in between these two dark lines of dots, and it helps create that blending. So when I erase the lines, you'll still get that blending. Because you take a look at the image that I'm using, okay, you can see up here we got a lot of that gray. How I'm going to get that is by doing lines of dark and then using this nib with these dots, with doing much finer lines between them. That's what's going to give this white blending in this area up here and over here. Where we don't really have it so much here, we do have it down here. So that's why I'm just showing you why artists use numerous different kinds of, have multiple inking tools in front of them. That's the reason why. So I hope you enjoyed this video. Please, when Stat does his shows, I throw in the chat and I go, don't forget to peck that like button. Support the bird. For me, stipple the hell out of that like button before you leave. And remember, everybody, life is always going to be stressful, but that's why you take it all one dot at a time.